When we hear the phrase broken heart, our minds usually default to a very specific image: a romantic split, dramatic rain, maybe someone crying over a pint of ice cream. But the reality of emotional fracture covers a much wider terrain. It happens when a student fails a major university exam that alters her entire career trajectory. It happens when a lifetime of savings vanishes in a sudden market crash, or when a bitter argument causes a permanent falling out between a parent and child. Whether it's educational, financial, or familial, these events share a strict set of conditions. The loss happens without warning. The decision cannot be revoked. The situation cannot be redeemed. Faced with that kind of absolute finality, our immediate instinct is to ask, how do I fix this? How do I cure the pain? And that is entirely the wrong question to ask. You cannot cure a broken heart. It is not a passing illness you can treat with medication or sleep off over a weekend. The truth is much harsher, but ultimately more useful. To survive this, you have to stop looking for a cure and start treating the trauma exactly like a violently shattered bone. If you break your leg, you don't ignore it. You put a rigid cast on the injury to stabilize it. If you want to recover your dignity after a profound loss, you have to do the exact same thing for your despair. To build this emotional cast, you cannot rely on false hope or distraction. You must forge it out of brutal, objective truth and radical acceptance of your unwanted reality. Recovery begins with a deliberate, difficult internal monologue. You force yourself to admit the facts out loud. I did fail this test. I did lose all my money. I lost the love of my life, and they are not coming back. This distinction is critical. On one side is the external event, a fact you cannot change. On the other is the internal grief. Because that anguish is a process happening within your own mind, rather than a physical force being applied to you from the outside, it is, by definition, within your own jurisdiction. By shifting your focus to the response you are giving yourself, you create the first opening for actual control. This is how we move from being a victim of the event to having agency over the aftermath. Through introspective work and philosophical discipline, the mind learns to contain and manage this self-generated anguish. To maintain that internal discipline, we can look to a daily rehabilitation protocol developed centuries ago by the Stoics. The protocol requires 5 precise actions. First, immediately upon waking, you express conscious gratitude for simply surviving to see another morning. Second, you accept that the past is over. The physical act of making your bed serves as a ritual to put the previous day to sleep. Third, you break the loop of chaotic thoughts. A harsh, freezing cold shower provides the physical shock necessary to refocus your mind. Fourth, you anchor yourself completely in the current moment. Anxieties about the future are rejected, leaving only the reality of the now. Finally, you proactively commit one small act of kindness. This single physical action forces you to build away from the cataclysm and towards something outside yourself. Doing these 5 things will not magically erase the agony, but they construct the vital psychological scaffolding you need to eventually return to your life's mission. Acknowledging that the pain persists is part of the process. As William Shakespeare observed, the physical act of weeping is often required to lessen the sheer depth of that grief. When we zoom out, we see that human history is essentially an enormous sequence of unavoidable tragedies. Look at Boris Pasternak's character, Dr. Zhivago. He survives childhood adversity only to watch his entire world convulse. His family is deported, the woman he loves vanishes into a labor camp, and he dies entirely alone. Yet, even amidst all these catastrophic events, Pasternak's work leaves us with a sense of renewal. There is an unbreakable spiritual continuity. Despite the tragedies we cannot control, life continues. The ultimate reality is that the emotional fracture never disappears. Much like a healed bone, the break remains a permanent part of your psychological anatomy. Lord Byron captured this beautifully when he compared a broken heart to a shattered mirror. He wrote that even when glass breaks, it lives on. Every fragment multiplies, creating 1,000 new images from the single one that existed. When your spirit fractures, those jagged pieces expand your capacity to understand a complex world. The trauma leaves a permanent mark, but it can also leave you more perceptive, modest, and deeply compassionate than you were before the break.